It's already here. Don't deny it. It's not enough. It may be for you, but it's not going to be enough to sit on the sidelines and make the moral plea that no, this is wrong. It's not going to last. There's too much money to be made, and it's too productive. It's here. All right. So I say get your own voice, likeness, etc. Trademark it, whatever you got to do.
So you did that.
Yeah, own yourself. So when it comes, not if it comes, no one can steal you. But they're going to have to come to you to go, can I? Or they're going to be in breach, and you'll have the chance to be your own agency and go, yeah, for this amount, or no. Okay, it's coming. Is there going to be another category, or is it going to infiltrate our category? It's damn sure going to infiltrate our category. I think it'll end up, does it become another category? Will we be in 5 years having films, the best AI film, the best AI actor? Maybe. I think that might be the thing, is that becomes another category. I'm not sure. It's going to be in front of us in ways that we don't even see it. It's going to get so good, we're not going to know the difference. That's one of the big questions. What we're doing right now is the question of reality. It's more hazy than ever. In a very exciting way, I think, but also a scary way.
Welcome back to Letters of Intent, the podcast for deal makers and risk takers. I am your co-host, Pankaj Raval, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Sahil Chaudry. Sahil, what are we listening to here? What's going on? And tell us a little bit more about the context of this clip.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Matthew McConaughey had a conversation with Timothy Chalamet, and he weighed in on the impact of AI and how it's affecting Hollywood. And I think something he touched on is something we deal with regularly, which are licensing agreements, name, image, likeness issues, intellectual property, contract issues. I thought that was really interesting when he said, trademark your voice. And I was actually going to ask, can you really trademark your voice? Is that something that you're capable of trademarking?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it can be difficult. I know courts have said that your protection over your trademark rights over your voice are somewhat limited, but I think that could change. I think that is ripe for challenge in the world of AI. That's the thing about the law. It is changing. It is always dynamic, and it just takes another one case to change precedent. We've seen that over and over again over the years where there's been settled law, but now there's new technology, the world changes, and now the law needs to change. So I'd see that as far as protecting your voice, it can be difficult. But the thing is, to have a trademark, people need to understand that there's really two main requirements. The one is that it has to be used in commerce. And the second thing is it has to be distinctive. Is there any commercial use for your voice? And a lot of times people who are public personalities do have commercial uses, right? You think about Morgan Freeman and his distinctive voice. You think about some of these NPR commentators who have a distinctive voice. You hear them on the radio and you know who's talking. So they're distinctive, and you attribute them to a certain source, and then they're also used commercially. So that's a requirement for a trademark. So who's to say that today voices shouldn't be able to get trademarked? And there's a long history of sounds being trademarked. You think about THX and that sound you hear at the movie theater. So there's many different sounds that could be trademarked. So I think we're in a unique position where we may see more voice trademarks in the future.
Matthew McConaughey has got a great argument. I mean, you hear the words, all right, and you know who it is.
Exactly.
It's pretty remarkable. So I think, he's got a great argument here. But he brings this up. This is so interesting. He's talking to aspiring actors about how to deal with AI. Is this good advice?
It is. I think it is. I think you have to kind of go on the offensive. You cannot just sit passively as the world changes around you. I think he's absolutely right. And you can't also say, woe was me, which I think he makes a point there. You can't say, oh, dang it, this sucks. It's going to ruin the profession, ruin the jobs. It's going to change it. And that's life. Life is dynamic. Life is always changing. And I think you have to be ready for it, right? Lawyers, it's happening to us. It's happening to a lot of professional service providers that AI is changing. And you can either sit back and cry about it, or you can take proactive steps. And I think as an actor, you got to also then look at where's your value? How is your value going to change in the future? And what can you do to protect that today?
So, okay, he touches on a few issues that I think are really interesting. He says you need to own yourself, like own you, so that when someone comes and negotiates and they want to use your name, image, likeness, you can say, well, okay, pay me this amount and you can use it in this way. Can you talk a little bit about how possible that is? Like, to what degree can you trademark, copyright, you? In what ways can you protect the digital version of you?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question that I think is going to be dealt with in the courts for a while. But there's been also cases in the past where I think Bette Midler filed a case a while back with the use of her voice, because these are distinctive elements of people that have commercial viability and can be used commercially. Fundamentally, a trademark is a source identifier. One great way to identify someone is by their voice, right? Like, we each have our own distinct, unique voices. So who's to say that those should not be protected? It's also important to mention that, like, if people looking to protect themselves and protect what they've created, you have to look at, well, you have to look at trademark, you have to look at copyright, but also it looks like courts have been more open to hearing the argument of right to publicity and also sometimes copyright as ways to protect your voice and likeness. If your trademark claim is not as strong or your copyright claim is not as strong, or courts have consistently held that you, based on your right to publicity, and right to publicity is a state law claim, not always a federal law claim. So you have to look at it state by state. But like in California, there's a very strong right to publicity protection. Then you will have greater rights to protect your voice and likeness and prevent the exploitation without your approval.
Okay, so let's say I'm an actor in LA and my manager calls me up and says, "Hey, I've got an audition for you. It's an AI company that wants to use your name, image, likeness as part of their marketing materials. What are the rights I should have locked down? Copyright, trademark, right to publicity, to be able to negotiate for some kind of limited scope and in exchange for my value?"
Yeah, I think could try filing a trademark. It depends on the kind of how famous you are and whether you're going to get that trademark or not. Fame certainly does help when it comes to trademarking. There's also right to publicity that you could argue, and some of that's going to be contractual too. So you've got to make sure that you're reviewing the contract or having someone capable and knowledgeable review the contract before you sign anything, because oftentimes there is a requirement that if you are going to give a company your right to use your voice, your name and likeness, or to reproduce it using AI, it has to be in writing. Those are laws in California that have been put in place. So now you have to see, are you giving these companies that right? Do they have the right to replicate and duplicate your voice using AI? And if it does, you have to really think about the incentives here, right? I think it changes the compensation. It changes whether you maybe even want to do that deal in the first place. Because if you're giving up your rights essentially to reproduce your voice and likeness in perpetuity, that's not a great deal. I think you're going to want to charge a lot more for what you're providing. Otherwise, you strike that part out.
So what we've seen, if we were to think about some precedents for this, like in modeling contracts that we've negotiated, let's say you're shooting for an e-commerce brand. That brand has a time limit for how long they can use your image. Sometimes there are geographic limits. You can use them in certain countries or in certain regions. And then there are usage limits. Okay, you can only use this as part of for e-commerce. You can't use this for your editorial lookbook. You can't then turn around and license that same image to Vogue magazine. So there are a few things for our audience that we want to highlight, things that you should look out for. If you're ever presented with one of these AI opportunities contractually, you want to make sure that when you terminate the agreement, the license that you provided to the company also terminates, because otherwise you might be terminating your right to receive payments, but they still have your intellectual property that can still run. The second thing that we want to look out for are usage rights. In what ways can they use your image? For example, do you want your image associated with certain industries? Let's say maybe you're uncomfortable with gambling or drinking, but you're comfortable with the company using your image as it relates to sports. You want to know what is your image going to be placed next to? What are you going to be marketing?
Right.
And then you also want to talk about exclusivity. A lot of times these contracts will bury exclusivity provisions that, well, once you've signed over your image to them, they have the exclusive right to use your image, because if you're endorsing their product, you're part of their marketing. They don't want you to be endorsing their competitor's product. But you, let's say you're an actor and you need to keep your hands free to be able to explore new deals and new income. It's very unlikely, especially if you're not a major celebrity, that one of these deals is going to be enough to pay you in perpetuity, where you won't need other deals. So those are a few things contractually I think you need to look out for. And I think Matthew McConaughey's advice here is spot on. You do need to own your name, image, likeness rights. You need to understand what those rights are, and you need to leverage them, and you need to negotiate for some kind of value. Do not just give that away. In this era of AI, that is not free. That is what someone is paying for.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm just curious, because from an IP perspective, is there a way to slice and dice the copyrights or trademarks so that someone doesn't get locked into a bundle of rights that they're giving away to a company that wants to license their rights. Or I think oftentimes companies try to bury in their provisions that they're actually trying to buy your name, image, and likeness, as opposed to licensing it for a continuous payment.
Yeah.
So are there certain things that someone should look out for in terms of language and provisions in one of these agreements?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before with a lot of music deals or even like 60 deals, companies would file trademarks on behalf of the artist and own those trademarks, right? Are you giving them that right? Are you giving them the right to register IP on your behalf? You have to be really careful in terms of like, what are the royalties you're going to get from this? What are you giving up in these agreements? And the chance that these companies are going to ask and take more and more is a lot higher today than ever. So you have to be really vigilant and diligent with reviewing contracts when negotiating on your behalf. And really like advocating for yourself too, because you're going to be feeling a lot of pressure. Now you have competition from these like AI generated actors, but that also means that, okay, what is your unique special sauce? What's your unique distinctive appeal that you can still market and say, hey, yes, these AI characters are great and fine, but here's what I can do. Here's how I'm well known. And still people are not as excited about an AI character as they are about a person. That's the reality today. Is that going to be reality in 5 years? Who knows? But I think it's about like identifying what is that unique characteristic that you have and then doing whatever you can to protect it and also make sure you're not giving up those rights with future deals.
Did you hear about this actress signed to talent agency, Tilly Norwood?
Yeah, I heard about this. She's an AI actor, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
first AI generated actress to be represented by a talent agency.
This is the world we live in today. It's hard to know like what is AI, who's not, and the line has become so blurred that yeah, you really got to figure out how you can protect yourself as an actor and protect your unique elements. And I think your voice is definitely one of them. Yeah.
So yeah, there are going to be AI actors and they're going to be competing with real actors. And here's an element, Pankaj, I find really interesting is up until now, let's say I wrote a song, I've written the song or I've written a script.
Mhm.
I'm copywriting the words that have already been written. The angle we're dealing with now is the words have not been written yet. Your
Right.
image and likeness is going to be associated with language that has not yet been created. So
Right.
that's a new kind of element. And that's why the trademark matters, because copyright can protect what's already been created, but copyright can't protect what hasn't been created.
Right. Right.
And at
Exactly.
least if you have a trademark, you're saying, well, look, this is my name, image, and likeness that you're using. This is my trademark way of speaking or acting or talking or looking. The public knows this is me. And not to get too philosophical, but then what is me, right? Like if I have been clipped out, the geometry of my face and the dimensions of my body have been clipped out, and now a company wants to use that, what are they using exactly? I mean, they could just make a replica of me. So
Yeah.
the me element that you are trying to capture is the trust.
Mhm.
If I know Matthew McConaughey is endorsing, let's say, a car, it gives me a reason to like that car. But if I know that Matthew McConaughey as a person is not actually endorsing that car, but someone just took his avatar and put it next to the car, it's not going to have the same impact for me because I like this person. I don't necessarily like this avatar.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know who is the avatar. Like why do I care? I think this goes to the heart of why do celebrity endorsements matter. The other thing interesting that's happening, I know today, Zuckerberg cloned himself, and there's all this talk about automating the CEO role,
Hmm.
where you'll have a CEO automated talk, and that way the AI clone is trained with the context of the person and then responds in the CEO's voice, uses their mannerisms. I mean, it kind of
Yeah.
goes to the heart of like, who is you?
Yeah.
Who is
I
the
mean,
person? Yeah.
It's interesting. I personally think it's bullshit, honestly. Think about it. Like we've both been leading this firm. You've led, companies. Your employees are going to call bullshit on that. I think pretty quickly. Like if you don't have the time to show up for your for your employees, is it really going to have the same effect, right? I feel like that's going to breed more discontent. If you're like, I don't have time for this, but talk to my AI clone. I mean, yeah, maybe there's like a chat bot where they can ask questions that way, but I don't know. Personally, if I was with a company and I was like, okay, let me just have a conversation with the AI clone of this person, I don't know. It wouldn't, you could tell that like, just like AI, the answers it provides are not really all that unique or substantive. And a lot of times they'll quote you what it knows, right? But it's hard to know like what exactly it says because like it goes, I think, to the base, to the foundations of thought and insight and,
Agency. Did you
agency,
make
right?
this decision or did
Yeah,
you not
yeah.
make this decision?
Right? Because like it becomes really interesting because what the AI is going to be trained based on everything I tell it, right? That's
Yeah.
all it can and that's all it can respond off of. And it'll make educated guesses based on the information provided and the context it has. But I have 43 years of context and ways that I was raised and random things that I've done and people that I've met that influenced me in some small or big way that is going to be very difficult to capture in an AI. And it goes down also to how we make decisions, right? And not all of us make decisions linearly in a logical way, right? There's a lot of factors that go into decision making.
Yeah, it's true. Let's say someone is a creative director and they're making a decision based on feel. Sometimes you make a decision based on the person you're speaking with and the energy that
Yeah.
gets created. Yeah, there is an X factor here. And I mean, it could just be that we're biased towards humans, but I do
Hmm.
think we use AI pretty regularly, even in our work. And we know that while AI is great when it comes to a first draft, it can make mistakes and you need a human being, at least now, to proofread. It also kind of limits the universe of context, right? Like
Right.
this. I mean, we're limited in our life experience, but still, if you're trying to replicate my responses, you're going to miss my ability to learn and how I relate to that context. So I think you're definitely going to get an incomplete leader if you're relying on an AI CEO.
Right. 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 Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see like what happens and how this progresses. I think we're going to be keeping a close eye on it. And if people are interested in learning more about voice marks, right publicity, how they should be reviewing contracts, this is stuff that we do a lot of and would love to chat because I think it's a fascinating subject and I think raises a lot of interesting questions that will be definitely coming to head in the next few years for sure.
Definitely. This will not be our last episode on AI. I mean,
And how
the ground is moving beneath our feet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we live
Yeah.
in California and it's usually moving, but it's moving more
Yeah, that's right.
than
Now
before.
it's really moving.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really moving. So, all right, Sal. Well, this is a great conversation. I think we're going to have a lot more to say about this in the future. If you're listening and have any questions, concerns, ideas, insights about what's happening in the world of AI and entertainment and business, we always love to hear from our listeners. Please like, follow, share, comment. And until next time, this is Letters of Intent.